There we are, riding on sync. This is sound roll 1 of Coro. It'll be the 31st of September, 1985, or the 1st of October, depending on whose calendar you look.
Well, it looks like Francisco is ferrying people out to the launch site.
Ok. Eso es, dale poco a poco. Hacia arriba, hacia afuera, hacia afuera, como está haciendo ella, ¿ves? Fuera la niña blanca, fuera. Sí, con. Sigue mirando. Hacia adelante y lo vas jalando hacia ti, ¿ves? Eso.
I'm Kathy Wadsworth. I've flown on all the other expeditions.
Yeah, I met Kathy in high school, and of course she was the older woman, and we were all very interested in that. And hanging out with this cool balloon guy, which we were also very interested in, so it was a twofer on that one.
Where do you want a Jeep? Okay, yeah? All right.
So Jorge Delano is the president of the largest sanitary ware manufacturing company in South America, called Benceramica. His travels in the United States had let him know that most people didn't know where Venezuela was or one darn thing about it, so he decided that he could do that using this vehicle of the balloons and flying in the special places of Venezuela.
My first intro to Coro was new kind of aircraft that I had never been in. I got to fly in the helicopter, which is also was an amazing machine that I'd never been in. And so the process of selecting launch sites involves a lot of circling around things on the ground. And after about 3 of these large circular maneuvers, I was starting to not feel so hot. So I told the pilot, or George, I forget which one, that I probably needed to get down on the ground sooner. It wasn't going to be pretty in the cockpit of the helicopter. So
Why don't you suggest to George that we should let off a little balloon?
You want to let another one of these go? Huh? Would you like to let another one of these little balloons go?
Absolutely.
Sí hay, no hay. Ah, gracias.
Yo les puse el maletín arriba
En la cesta.
para que no se los llevara el helicóptero con el viento.
Sí. Va a volar con Paul, ¿no?
Yes.
Boy, these balloons are good and big. Okay, let a globo go, Paul.
Yeah.
Number 2.
Okay.
We launched a couple of test balloons, and the wind changed a lot in a short amount of time, because here we let off one balloon. The commentary lets us know that it was going pretty well, and we would be protected behind those dunes. But by the time we were inflating, it had already changed a little bit, and now instead of us being perfectly set up to have the wind directly behind us, it was heading northwest, so it was coming out of the southeast.
Starting to get that turn again.
Yep, more out of the east.
Paul Stumpf is a New England balloonist. We were looking for another balloonist to come down and fly one of the balloons, and he was a natural person to ask. I mean, he was very experienced. Again, he could understand the whole thing of doing a film, because he had filmed with Hugh Scott before. He was a natural.
Noroeste.
Noroeste. Es un poco mejor que ayer.
Va más lento.
En el jeep, ¿no?
¿En el jeep?
Sí.
¿Ahora mismo?
Bueno, yo creo que no sé todavía, puede ser que haya
Ya echaron un globito ahorita.
que haya otra prueba, ¿no? How'd it go?
I got an invitation. Immediately jumped right all over that. And so that led into my first Venezuelan balloon adventure, which would have been Coro, the Desert Dunes adventure. And that was the first time that I had probably collaborated on anything with Kathy since I was in high school.
Guantes, todo el mundo guantes. Va a empezar.
So there was a 140,000 cubic foot balloon, which is normally a balloon that couldn't carry 6 passengers and fuel. And the 105, which is what Paul was flying, which is it got to be a more typical size balloon that could carry four passengers nicely. Venezuela is hot, a hot country. So you know, if you want to carry people and equipment like we did with the filming, you know, the balloon can lift because it's hotter than the air that it's flying in. But if the air it's flying is, you know, 70, 80, whatever degrees, then you need a larger balloon so that you can get the lift you need to carry either passengers or equipment.
You have gloves, Aníbal? You have gloves? Really stick them tight so that we don't lose the top of it.
I don't know how. I mean, I'm just actually flabbergasted how Scott put together so much material from these things that were going on, because so much was happening so quickly, and there was not any official plan of how it was going to all unfold. It was just well, here's what we're hoping to do, and so this balloon, we'll try to stay with that balloon, and we'll see how we do. And I'm just looking at guys, all the crew running around, guys on the radio to the helicopter, and Kathy and George scoping out things, and the crew running equipment around. Looks like there's even just a ranger guy here. There's a patch on his shirt. I don't remember the rangers helping us.
And I've just started inflating. And again, we have people some have done it before. Luis was on one side, and I forgot who was on the other side. But Paul's standing there in his gloves, and he just sees the cables are hanging, and he just puts his hands out and picks them up till they go taut. Yeah, it was great to have him there. Really, really great. So you can see as you're watching the film that we have a large dune behind us as we're setting up, and we chose it so we would have protection because the dunes are not calm. They don't really get absolutely quiet, especially when the sun comes up.
They chose an area behind a giant sand dune that was sheltered, theoretically sheltered from the wind. And this is an area that was windy. It was just by its nature. It was by the ocean, and it was covered with sand dunes. And what makes sand dunes? Wind. So, hiding behind this giant sand dune didn't do much to protect us in the end result. The inflations on the sand at the base of this dune were pretty exciting, and we didn't have an excess amount of crew people.
So it was tricky. I mean, the dunes did help, and you could see once I stood the 140 up, that helped Paul a lot, because that balloon, once it was finally really standing, it reduced the wind on him because it was a lot bigger than the balloon he was flying.
So we battled them into the air, sharing crew and sharing inflator fans, and by the time we took off on the first flight, I was so nerved out. My mouth was so dry, I couldn't even swallow. I was just like, all I could do to just get my wits together and just figure out what it was we were about to do.
You're all secure, right?
Yeah. Ya estamos casi llegando.
Okay, everybody wait on the basket.
Todo el mundo pegado, todo el mundo.
No, we should not have given up. For me, and for Paul too, I mean, we never were looking at each other with like, should we rip out here? Should we forget about this? No, we never thought that, because even though it looked like it was undulating around quite a lot, it still kept filling. It was so terrible because, yes, we were at the end of the safety line there that Gustavo ended up chopping, and you could see when we took off, the balloon really undulated around at takeoff, and that was because of the way it was let go. People couldn't hold the balloon any longer, so the safety line got to be very taut. The balloon was straining to fly. We could not pull it back enough to give any space for the safety line to be unhooked, either on the basket or at where it was tied off. So one of the crew members took a knife to the rope and cut it, and it snapped back, and it actually whacked Jorge in the eye.
Yeah, so, a prudent balloonist may not have flown, but that would have been like on a sport flight. So this was an adventure flight, and this was an area where we're expected to push our limitations. And we got both balloons in the air without doing any damage to them, which is, if you're not be able to get a balloon inflated without damaging, then something's definitely wrong. So it wasn't beyond our capabilities, but it certainly was not something I was used to doing. And but it was a wide open area, essentially covered with sand dunes and salt flats that we were flying into. So we were confident that we'd be able to execute pretty safe landings in these large open areas. But it didn't quite turn out that way.
So we're flying over this park. It goes on for many, 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 many miles along the coast of Venezuela and has a highway that goes through it. We flew far, but we weren't up that long. I think the first flight, I think they were both around 45 minutes or so. I remember you saying when Paul first surfed one of those dunes, and came out swinging as he crossed over the top of it, you said, "Can you do that?"
I started dragging doing these touch and goes on the sides of the dunes on the upwind side, and we would drag the basket through the brush and then up the side of a dune, and then I didn't even really realize that when we got to the top of this dune, the other side just drops off like a cliff, and we're already at like a 20, 30 degree angle. It was a pretty steep angle. The whole balloon was like going at an angle, and then we would just come flying off the tops of these dunes doing about 10 or 15 miles an hour, and the whole basket would just pendulum through the air. It was an amazing. I'd never done anything like that in a hot air balloon.
I'm just happy to see more footage from that flight and all the people who were there. And it was a very special one for me and Jorge, so because we had just found out we were going to have Ross. Ross says, "Mama, I'm looking at this thing. It says September 30th. Click, here we are. And then you go in and do this. Did Papa know?" I said, "Well, not right away." Because he might have said, "We're not doing this." Because we got there, and the next day we were going flying, and we really didn't have any, much time alone. So after the flight, I think that afternoon, we were alone, and I told him. So it was a very special time. It was my favorite trip. Instead of worrying about the terrain, we could just really have a beautiful flight and not worry about what could or couldn't happen and how remote everything was. And even though it was a fast, exciting flight and landing, it was like going ballooning. I guess I liked it for that reason. So the next big dune that we came above, we touched on it nice and low and went, sliding up to the top of it and swung over. And, again, talk about a balloon becoming all kinds of shapes and then having to keep it in the air, shooting the heat in as the mouth opened up again and holding off and shooting heat into it again when it opened up again so we could get back to a proper shape. So we did that several times because we were over those nice dunes.
Yeah, I love the shot of the donkeys running in the foreground of the balloon. That's also one of my favorite pictures in my mind. I always say the best pictures are the ones you bring back in your head, not in your camera. And that's one of those ones I brought back in my head.
donkeys. That was a surprise. And as I see them now on the film, I didn't realize there were so many. I didn't realize there were so many of them. It was like a little herd of donkeys out there. But I don't remember anybody saying, you know, like down in North Carolina, they have those horses from hundreds of years ago out on the Outer Banks. Nobody said, oh my God, we got these wild donkeys. No, that was a total surprise when those guys showed up. And then the poor little guys, they kept running around looking for a place to hide. That was too bad. But the flying part of it, I really enjoyed it. I mean, it was challenging because we added those little twists to it, you know, the surfing the dune kind of thing.
And the whole basket would just pendulum through the air. I'd never done anything like that in a hot air balloon. And because the balloons were so lightly loaded, the envelopes were distorting and doing all kinds of crazy shapes. Immediately, we realized we were going very fast just by watching the ground speeding by. And looking ahead, we weren't quite on the trajectory we'd hoped to get ourselves into the more open areas for landing. We were sort of heading towards an area of rougher terrain, let's say. Not mountainous by any means, but gullies and little things like that, which in the end result, I luckily got down first, and I had been playing with sliding the balloon off the dunes as an effort to slow ourselves down so the other balloon could catch up to us, because the plan had been for the two balloons to fly together as closely as possible.
Where we ended up, the terrain was a little bit more uneven.
Francisco.
Huh? Are you okay? You sure? You all right? Okay.
Francisco.
Good.
Pacheco. Francisco.
Helmet's on. Goddamn big balloon, you know? That stuff.
Oh, that was from the bushes over there.
Check her, doctor, check her.
Yeah. She's right now good.
Are you checking her?
Yeah. Se salió el aire.
¿Cómo está el ojo mío?
Está bien, lleno de tierra.
¿Tiene tierra?
Está marrón, ¿no?
¿Seguro?
Tiene los dientes marrón.
Mira el ojo, ¿cómo está el ojo? El pelín.
Bájalo un poquito. Sí. Tiene una pequeñita escoriación en la córnea.
Can't get that. The other people
No me
get
oyes. Lady.
can't.
Francisco.
You really need some water.
Yeah.
Well, call the other guys. Call Paul.
Paul.
Francisco, me copia. Francisco, me copia. Cucú, me copia. Cucú, me copias, cambio.
Why, can you wipe it out?
Francisco, me copias, cambio. Bacamaya, me copian. Oye, ¿nos puedes traer un poco de agua?
¿Se puede llevar agua?
Sí, estamos llenos de... Bueno, ¿no tienes nada arriba?
No, aquí no tengo nada, si quieres te lo busco.
No, déjalo así. ¿Qué resultado dio la...? Nos dimos un coñazo durísimo.
Claro, que yo no sé para qué subieron tanto desde... ¿Dónde estás tú?
No sé, Cucú, ¿estás por ahí?
Sí, Coro está tratando de decir, trae el jeep acá.
Ah, bueno, perfecto. Nos dimos un coñazo aquí al final porque nos agarró una especie de saliente.
Ah, yo lo vi, eso fue lo que nos quedó.
Sí, el maldito globo no se desinflaba porque era demasiado, ¿cómo se llama? Grande, ¿no?
Pero es que no jalaron el tapón, ¿no?
No, si lo jalaba, lo estaba jalando yo hacia adentro.
Ya vas a ver la afirmación que nunca se quitó de los cierres mágicos.
Coño, pero sé cuántas veces, no te puedes imaginar lo que yo lo jalé esa vaina como loco, ¿vale?
Bueno, pero eso fue lo que nos llamó a nosotros la atención.
Bueno, entonces, gracias. A ver si manda a la gente a que le eche una manito para acá.
Sí, yo me voy a ir hasta la batería que va a poner combustible.
¿Te falta mucho combustible?
Mira, tengo 1 hora 40 de vuelo y me debe quedar como una media hora.
Ok, déjanos gente aquí para que nos ayude entonces.
Ok.
¿Dónde viene el jeep?
No sé, no lo he visto.
Ok, gracias, Francisco. Wow. That was something again, let me tell you. No, I just sat on the floor and pulled the damn thing in. It seems that it didn't come in. That parachute is too big, or I'm not used to the goddamn parachute. It's so big. Huh? Yeah, shit. Never earned it, this damn thing. Look out with your hands. Second. There you go. Whoa!
Sorry. How'd you hand me that rope?
That was a flight. What a great
Muddy.
flight.
A muddy
We got a muddy flight.
Another dirty flight.
Woo! Look at this thing. Be good for another flight, you think?
Maybe. I'm sure it was good for a lot more.
Okay, that's it.
We need a shovel. Stand by. I have to go back in there. We have to get it out anyway. Yeah.
I know. Did you bleed all your lines or not yet?
Well, I can't get at them. They're full of shit. Can't shut it down.
Give me that.
I'm giving it to you.
It's under the
I know, George.
tank?
Yes.
No, I'm just asking.
Yes.
Hard to
The
get-
tank is really wedged in here because of the mud.
Okay.
Wait a minute.
Okay. What a mess. This thing got under me. I just can't keep. There we go. Great mud, huh? There's a lot of salt.
That's what Paul said he was tasting.
Did he taste it too?
Okay. You're gonna have to just really go at the mud here and get it out so we can stand the basket up. This is Scott.
This is Scott's? Ah, bravo. No wonder.
Well, let's start getting this thing in the bag.
The whole thing?
Yeah. Are you gonna leave part of it here?
All right.
Yeah, this is the other end.
Well, a good landing.
Much better.
Much better than yesterday. I must say. What happened to your radio? I must have lost it. Parts and pieces. Here, this thing. Wow, good flight, huh?
45 minutes.
That's it?
So George, how was it to fly with two balloons? Is that harder than?
Well, I guess it is. You try to get yourself together as much as possible, but it doesn't work that way all the time. It was rather fun.
Were you in front most of the way?
Almost all the time, yes. Good flight.
What do you think about the advantages of this larger balloon?
I don't know. It's too bouncy. We're too light. And in a high wind, it's tough to stop when you hit and you try to bring in the parachutes. The huge parachutes, like a 140, and it's not that easy. And it's pretty bouncy. I don't know. I would rather fly a smaller balloon, I would say. Now, after getting all these experiences, we got this balloon basically to fly the high altitudes. You know, we should have flown this one, the Andes, instead of a 77. But our 77 is in bad shape. You know, after going to Sariyama, it's in real bad shape. So we used this one, this big one. And again, it's so hot here. We never know how hot it's going to be. So we need a larger balloon also. So it's you know, my experience.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
Learn anything new out here than other locations?
Well, let me tell you, I'd rather land on a flat surface like this than a bumpy surface like yesterday. That was really something, you know. And we dragged a lot here. We were, you know, very cool, and we pulled the ripcord in, but still, you know, these things are like a huge sail. They go like you can't imagine. You can't stop them. You know, I mean, we stopped because we dug half the beach into the basket, I think. It's really good. That's just great. Beautiful. Slow. And a fast, nice landing.
No bumping around.
Not bumping around, lots of sand.
Wet sand.
Yeah, that's right. And we keep landing on the wrong side of the basket. I don't know. Come on.
Why did you pick this site to fly at?
This site, because of the desert-like mountains we got around here. It's part of Venezuela's
They're called dunes.
dunes. Thank you. Dunes. That's it.
You can see them in the distance there. Nice
Well,
dunes.
That's right.
We're going to get the pyrometer out.
¿Qué pasó?
Were you worried about the wind?
Today? No. It's just great. Enough wind to go as fast as we wanted to go. We want to go to the beach, though. We didn't make it. Would have been nice just to get plunge into the beach.
How was the takeoff this morning?
A lot better than yesterday, I would say. Takeoff was nice, smooth, and easy. No cutting on the lines or stuff.
You didn't have any trouble with the wind coming over the dune?
No, not at all. And then we came in low to see if we could go back to the dunes, but it was not possible, so we went too much to the north, so that's why here was almost at the beach side. But still, the flight was great.
What do you think your next trip's going to be?
Well, we got 2 or 3 things planned. Go down to maybe down to the south and fly the Outtakes. The Outtakes mountain, which is a needle-like tepuy like we did back then in '82 with the Angel Falls. But this is a lone tepuy in the middle of the jungle, and fly into the Orinoco and see if we can land on a barge. No, get some.
How many more flights do you plan in Venezuela?
A couple more maybe, and then we're invited to go to Ecuador and fly the volcanoes in Ecuador, which are of course very beautiful. And then somebody has talked about going to Chile to fly the Chilean fjords, which would be something else.
So you haven't had enough of this kind of ballooning?
Not yet. Still alive. Okay.
George, when you kept on yelling for me to get off, I kept on climbing, but as I climbed, I dug the lip in deeper.
You climbed where?
I was climbing up on the strap. I was trying to get my weight off you.
Well,
and as
you
I
know
did,
what
I
happened?
brought
You
the
see what happened? The trouble is, I was
down.
pulling the rib line, and what happened was that
Get your arms caught down in it.
my arms caught into this thing, so I couldn't pull anymore. That's why I was telling you to get off me so I could keep pulling.
I
So
was
we're
trying as hard as I could.
Yeah. So it's like, it's funny how this thing.